everyone. Welcome to this month's Ask Quantum Touch. I'm so happy to be here with you this month, along with Richard Gordon and Miriam Hunter. For those of you who are new to this event or have not seen me before, my name is Renée Morris, and I'm a certified quantum touch practitioner, recently certified instructor, quantum touch ambassador. I also work, thank you, I also work with the head office doing things related to social media, and I'm very thrilled to be your host today. I'm excited that we have Richard Gordon, founder of Quantum Touch, best-selling author, visionary, energy healing pioneer, who has been in energy healing for over 50 years and who has recently published not one, but two new books with another one about to come out. Richard's going to talk to us about that very shortly. So, and that makes, I think the next book will be his 8th publication, I think, but he can let us know. And we also have Miriam Hunter with us today, which is very exciting. She's been with Quantum Touch since 2004, a certified practitioner since 2005. So Miriam, that makes it 20 years. It'll be 20 years this year that you've been a certified practitioner, but you're also an instructor, trainer. Miriam works with the curriculum and course development. So she does a lot of things in quantum touch and has taught and trained internationally. So we're excited to hear from both Richard and Miriam today, who have opened themselves up to answer all of your energy healing questions. And I know this will be a dynamic hour. We always have a lot more questions than the hour allows for, but you're welcome to start posting your questions in the chat. And if you'd like to share where you're from, I always like to see how international we can get during these meetings. And we have people from all over the world who tune in from different time zones. Last time we had somebody ask a question from Japan, which I think it's the middle of the night there. I'm in Canada. I think Richard and Miriam are both currently in the United States. And so I love to see where everybody's from. So feel free to post that in the chat. Hi, Richard. Hi, Miriam. I'm happy to have you here today. Is there anything that you'd like to say a quick hello before we get started?
I'm just really glad to be here. Thank you, Renee and Miriam, for coming along. This is going to be great.
Really excited also to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Renee, and always love being with you, Richard.
Thank you. Likewise.
Excellent. Thank you. Great. So we'll get started. Richard, if you want to take a moment to, as people are writing their questions, if you want to take a moment to talk about the two books that you just recently published and another one, which I think most people won't know about yet.
Well,
that is
that one, I'm not going to really talk about it yet because it's
okay.
and it's far afield as well. It's an overreaching theory of consciousness, so it's not exactly in line with the quantum touch work specifically. But I attended seminars from 1980 to 1995 with a spiritual teacher who was clearer than anything I've ever encountered since, by far. And for 45 years, I carried about 2,600 pages of notes that I had taken by hand from these seminars. And 4 or 5 pages of notes was often about a 3-hour workshop. So it's a lot of material. And I couldn't put it all into a book, but I probably got at least 60, 70% into this book. It's called The Lazarus Material. And this is stunning information. It's almost 400 pages of concise, clear material. So for instance, if you were to ask somebody, how do you get self-esteem? And you can answer it to yourself right now and think, well, be nice to yourself, talk well, don't criticize yourself too much, do good things, eat good food, things like that. But when you ask what the Lazarus material would say, it says, there are 4 primary pillars of internally based self-esteem: honesty, integrity, responsibility, and self-trust. And if you break any of them, you broke them all. And it's really deep, concise wisdom. And so not just that, but I made 50 chapters in this book, which coincide with a 50-sided die. So you can buy this for $9 on Amazon, along with the book, plus the book. And you can roll the die, get a number from 1 to 50, and then read the chapter. This is a book that's not meant to be read directly. It's too much information. But if you roll the die and read the chapter and let it in, the second, third, and fourth, and fifth time you read the chapter, you'll see it from completely different points of view because it's way too much to absorb at one time. So this book is like a lifelong companion type of book. This book is the most outlandish book I've written yet. Energy reverses entropy. It's how to slow, stop, and reverse aging. And I have absolute clarity that this is working right now. And I could tell you stories, but I'm not going to get into it right now too much. But I will say this. The scientists who study aging have noticed that the telomeres shorten. Those are the little things at the end of the genes. You've got DNA damage, you got toxicity in the cells, you got misfolded proteins, mitochondria, stem cells. These are the primary areas where aging takes place in the body. Now, we know that aging is a form of entropy, going from order to disorder. And that's the natural progression. But healing is the opposite of entropy. Now, if you get the healing higher than the entropy, then we stop the aging. But the joke is longevity takes a long time. And so if you are totally successful with the work, in the first year, you may have just stopped the aging process. You may not see any benefits at all in terms like, oh, wow, my wrinkles are disappearing or something. But in time, you will see these results. And I am absolutely convinced that it's working for me on so many levels. I'm not going to detail them right now unless you ask. But yes, it clearly works. And you can use these techniques. And I'm covering some level 1, some level 2, some secret nature of matter stuff in here. And I've got about 40 or 50 holy moly moments in this book that, like, I can't even believe I got to say that in this book. So this is a real piece to work with. And if you're inclined to work with the aging process and amplify your quantum touch energies, I do recommend this book. So those are my announcements for now, and hope you enjoy. And if you're
Excellent.
inclined, give me a good review on Amazon so other people will know that it's there, and tell your friends.
Excellent. Thank you, Richard. That's very
Sure.
exciting. And I've been really enjoying the books myself. So I encourage everyone to go out and buy them, leave a great review as well. And I was just scrolling through the chat. We have a lot of people reporting their locations, Poland, Hong Kong. We have people from Switzerland, all over the world, which is great. And I have a few questions that we'll start with as people continue to or start to type their questions. The first one that came in is from Kevin. And Kevin asks, can you heal someone who doesn't believe in this process? So Miriam or Richard, go ahead. Feel free to answer that one.
It makes no difference at all. In fact, it's been really fun for me because some of the most hostile skeptic people I've worked on would experience the healing and then go into denial afterwards. Like one woman was whining about having a splitting headache. And after a headache disappeared, she said, well, I don't think I really had a headache. It's fascinating. But some of the most enthusiastic people may be the most resistant and the ones who actually believe in it. So belief isn't really the issue. But what I found is if the energy work doesn't get the job done, we need to pull out the big guns and work on the deep emotions. So I created a whole modality called self-created health that helps people find and release the emotional causes of health conditions. And when you release those emotions, not only do symptoms go away, but people feel grateful for having had the condition. I think they're calling it becoming whole, if I'm right. I haven't looked into it, but that may be it.
Yes. Level 3, becoming whole. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Richard. Miriam, do you want to weigh in on that question as well?
Just the fact that the techniques work regardless of belief or non-belief. When we're cultivating that high resonant energy, it permeates everything. And so when the inner healer has that availability of the high resonant vibration of energy, then the inner healer can decide what's going to be helpful in that situation. And the mental chatter, is neither here nor there. It's simply the inner healer taking advantage of the high resonant vibration of energy.
Yes, the body has its own internal wisdom and what I call spiritual body and spiritual intelligence, because the greatest minds in the world would not know how to heal a paper cut. And the body knows how to do these things with an intelligence that's beyond our imagination. So when you give the energy, it lets the body's system do its own self-healing. And the results are often not just surprising, even shocking. And they can be quite often miraculous.
Very true. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you to Kevin for your question. We have some great questions now coming in the chat. And the first one is from Melanie, and it's for Richard. Melanie says, I'm reading Energy versus Entropy and was wondering if you could go through the steps with the infinity vortex, as I couldn't quite understand or visualize the steps involved.
Yeah, this was a problem. There were a few problems in the book. It was early. The layout artist put the wrong title on the spine, and there's a couple repeated paragraphs in chapter 7.5. But you can think of the infinity vortex. If you put your right arm above your left and you you go out, there's a vortex going up and a vortex coming down, and they meet in the middle. So you can spin this one clockwise and spin the lower one counterclockwise. And this creates a vortex, and you can just move the vortex through your entire body and amplify it. And I didn't really explain it properly in the book, and we're going to save that for the live classes in the future, but you know it now, so you can start playing with it and move that. Where the two vortexes come together, there's a point of tremendous friction, and you can move it anywhere through your body. And one of the things I like to do is I like to use the different techniques in the book to, especially when I go to bed. So I'll take, like, how long does it take me to fall asleep? 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it takes. I will be doing the deep breathing and amplifying the energy while I'm waiting to fall asleep. And when I fall asleep, I just do. But I'd say about 1 out of every 3, 4, 5 nights, I'm actually running the energy while I'm asleep. And I'm still doing the healing work while I'm asleep. I'm not trying to, but once I got into the habit of doing it, you kind of tend to keep it going afterwards.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Melanie, for your question. Our next question comes from Mimi in the chat. Great to see you here, Mimi. Mimi asks, how to do quantum touch on a teen with painful menstrual cramps? Does the session have to be done while they're in pain, or can it be done at any time of the month? Great question.
It can be done anytime. I mean, again, there is no time and space if you really think about it. And if we just cultivate the energy with the idea that it's going to be offered to the inner healer to use in whatever way is going to suit best, it will be received. So.
Yeah, that's really true. And beyond that, I did an experiment when I was in Mexico, and it was a temporal experiment. And it's always hard to come up with a really good experiment about how do you work across time. But here's what I did. I've known how to send energy from the heart chakra to a bone behind the nose and eyes, and it's something I talk about in a few of my books. And it instantly aligns the hips and the cranial bones. And it can be done from any distance. But I tried a variation I'd never tried before, and it astounded me. So what I did was I measured a woman's hips, and okay, it's really obvious this side is high. And then I sent energy to the sphenoid bone as if to align the hips. But I had a very clear intention. Miriam, you might want to try this experiment. It's really fun. I sent the energy with a clear intent to align her hips 10 minutes from now. So I sent the energy, and for the very first time in my life, I measured someone immediately after sending energy and did not see the hips move. And I was like, what? It didn't move? Okay, this is exciting. And then I measured her 10 minutes later, and it was totally aligned. So you can actually send energy off to the future. So if you know somebody's going to get surgery, you can learn the quantum touch work, level 2, and then you can send, or even level 1, and you can send the energy at a distance for just before they get on the table and after surgery, during surgery, after surgery. We're not limited by time and space. And some of the things about quantum touch and this particular technique, it's not so interesting that I'm aligning people. Who cares, right? If the hip is high, it doesn't really matter that much, except to the person when it's really out and it hurts. But the point is, it should be physiologically impossible. So it changes our fundamental assumptions about physics, medicine, psychology, human identity, philosophy. This Galileo showed us where we live. This shows us who we are and some of our human and spiritual potential. And when I showed scientists at the University of Arizona, everyone agreed it was real. 4 of the postdocs wanted to research and publish, but they were afraid. Proving it wasn't the problem. It was the paradigm. We broke the damn paradigm. And they all called it academic suicide. One said, I'll never get tenure if I publish. And the head professor said he knew no university in the world that was open to these discoveries. So you are in a unique position to learn things that break the assumptions of materialist view of science. So this is a very exciting time to be in.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Richard. Thank you, Miriam. A great question, Mimi. And Richard, I love to see that you're this as passionate as ever about the work, even after 50 years, and you continue to experiment and try new things and encourage other people to do the same as well. That's fantastic. So we have a great question
Can I
from
ask you,
Debbie.
is it okay if
Oh.
I could ask you? Because I don't think it was really answered. What do you have in mind when you want to work on someone's cramps? Like, what do you have in mind? What are you doing when you're sending energy? Sorry.
I just stay in with the techniques. The techniques work. So you can just simply be breathing and sweeping with the intention to offer the energy to assist in whatever way their inner healer would find helpful.
And one more thing, we're using a very complex technique we call the where does it hurt technique. And so where does it hurt? And so I'll often have a person even put my hand on them where they want me to run the energy. And so you can sandwich it between your hands, or you can go like over the ovaries or the uterus or wherever the pain is, or you can go through the body. They both work, and you're not going to do it wrong. And we have another complex technique called chasing the pain or sensation. So if you're working in this spot here and you say, well, I'm feeling it over here now, great, I'll move my hands there. So it's not an intellectual process. It's so natural and automatic, but the technique is really learning to amplify the energy with breathing and body awareness exercises that amplify it. And it's a skill. And I don't think I've reached my peak ability to do this. And I practice pretty much every day since I first learned. Around my 30th birthday is when I learned how to start working with this energy. I had written another book called Your Healing Hands, the Polarity Experience, that came out a couple months after I learned this technique. And I had been practicing polarity therapy for about 4 or 5 years before the book came out. So this goes back a long time now. But the point is that this is probably the easiest skill that anyone can ever learn. And you can use this immediately, and you just direct it to what needs to be done. And you don't have to figure it out. The body intelligence will move the energy. And even if you're wrong, they'll tell you where the spot is because it moves or it changes.
Thank you, Richard. Well, we have a great question from Debbie in the chat. Debbie asks, can you help someone in the first stages of dementia? Can it be reversed?
I've seen definitely. I remember going to Thanksgiving dinner and my friend's mom was having light dementia. And before dinner started, I'm spending 10 minutes running energy into her head. And she was clear for 3 days afterwards. And with such a delightful lady, it was just fantastic. But yeah, we've heard lots and lots of stories about people using it. But I would really recommend on top of that, that people start cutting back on simple carbohydrates and sugars and treat the person like you would give them a really healthy diet if they had diabetes, because the blood sugar seems to be a real big problem with issues of dementia and Alzheimer's.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Leanne asks, this is a great question for Miriam. How do you keep yourself comfortable when doing 30 to 45-minute sessions? I find sometimes my arms go numb or my back starts to ache. Great question.
Mm. So it's really important when you're doing sessions to keep your breathing and sweeping up, but also if you're working with someone in person or even remotely, that you are in a comfortable position and they are in a comfortable position. So for instance, if you're working on feet, you're not going to bend over from standing to work on their feet. You're going to have them on maybe a massage table or something like that to work on the feet. So we were wanting to look at what are the ergonomics, what is your height, what is their height, what is the body part that you're going to be working with. And sometimes you can shake out your hands, or you can take a different kind of breath to move the energy differently. Maybe you want to sit instead of standing. It really is about being in the moment and honoring where your body is and what the energy is offering.
Absolutely. And, the bottom line is be comfortable. So, I remember teaching classes, somebody had their arms out like that working. I said, well, just bend your elbows,
Right.
or come around the other side, or sit in a chair, or, make yourself comfortable. If they're, laying on a couch, you can just sit on a chair, or, you can just do what's necessary. So experiment, move your body around till you find a comfortable spot, and it shouldn't be a problem. And then you can shake out, like you say.
Thank you. I found also, Leanne, that when I first started doing quantum touch, I actually had to work my way up to being able to do longer sessions. So I practiced consistently certain time intervals and then increased just running energy within myself. So that might help as well. Thank you for your question. Now we have a question from Takshing Wong from Hong Kong, who asks, how should a patient who has improved or recovered after healing be asked how much endurance can be maintained? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but how should a patient who has improved or recovered after healing be asked how much endurance can be maintained? Will the information of traditional Chinese medicine that is familiar with acupoints and meridians help quantum touch more directly? Or use the simplest way to let the energy automatically find the right location? So, Richard or Miriam, is there anything that you'd like to address in that question?
I think it sounds like maybe the question is how can they maintain what they've already established in terms
I
of
think so.
a session. Okay. Quantum touch works beautifully with everything. So if you're already working with Chinese medicine, or you're already working with meridians, or you're already working with other kinds of modalities, certainly bring those in. In terms of longevity, the body has an incredible ability to heal and to maintain, but sometimes when things have been held in the body for a long time, you might need a couple more sessions, or you might need them closer together, or you might need them a little bit longer. But always using the breathing and sweeping and coming back to maintenance techniques is really the key.
I would say all of that and add that the body metabolizes the energy that you're giving it. And it's really strongest in the first day, but you often see results for 2 or 3 days after a session. And so the body's using the energy almost like, digesting food. It's taking it in, it's doing the healing it can do. People can work on themselves and they can get more sessions. And so the maintenance is automatic. And you're not going to let someone with a badly sprained ankle test it out by running down the field to see how well it works. No, you gotta care for yourself and be appropriate. But the energy is automatic. And this is part of our problem of thinking about things. We think we have to figure it out. We think we have to understand. But explain how you swallow. Explain how you heal a cut. Explain how you know how to keep your heart beating while you sleep. It's not an intellectual process. And the energy is utilized by the body quite elegantly. And we don't have to figure it out or understand it. We just have to utilize it.
Thank you, Richard and Miriam. And Tak, if you would like any more clarification on that question, then feel free to post it in the chat and I'll keep an eye out for it. Now we have a question from Jack. Jack asks, how do I breathe from my feet?
Well, it's not really breathing from your feet. What's happening in basic quantum touch is you're learning, it's like progressive relaxation exercises where you start feeling, can you feel your toes? Can you feel your feet? Can you feel your ankles? And so what you're learning to do is you're learning to move the awareness through your body in various patterns and link it with deeper breathing. So you're doing both simultaneously. And so you're moving the energy from the feet. You're not really breathing through the feet, but you're moving the energy from the feet. So it's a slight misnomer.
Intention's really enough to get it done too.
Intention, attention, linked with breath.
Thank you. And thank you, Jack, for that question. I see you reiterated it a bit further down in the chat. So if there's any more explanation that you'd like, then feel free to post again and I'll keep an eye out for your question as well. So now we have a question from V who asks, can you send quantum touch to a stranger who appears to be suffering, or does that interfere with their free will or life path? Great question.
Well, I would say that if you want to send it to someone, ask that it be done for the highest good, if you don't have permission. And if they're not ready to receive it for one reason or another, they simply won't receive it. You're not going to be causing any harm. Your intention is to give love. So let me ask the question back. If you see a little child in a supermarket and you think it's adorable and you just feel some love for the child, are you getting in trouble? Are you crossing any lines? No, you're just loving somebody. So you're welcome to love people and send some energy just because you feel good. And good energy is always welcome. But if their system, emotions, connection, whatever, cannot receive it, they won't. But it's not lost because it's changing you in the process of giving.
Beautiful explanation. Thank you. Great. We have a question now from Francis in the chat. Francis asks, can you talk to your cells regarding telomeres, etc.? And if so, what's the best approach?
It's all explained in my book. What you're doing is you are talking to them, but you want to talk energetically with love and heart chakra. And so you see, a lot of people think that what I'm doing is just intent. No. Intent is like the third arm of it. The first and second arm, not that one is more important than the other, is the breathing and the body awareness and the synergy of the breathing and body awareness. That's the strength of it. And then we direct it with intent. Now, you don't have to send it to the telomeres. You don't have to send it to the stem cells and the mitochondria. You don't have to do that. What's happening is you just send the energy to the system and it'll utilize it to its best advantage because it's about 1,000,000 times smarter than we are on that level, because none of us know how to heal a cut. None of us know how to digest. Tell me about the 100 functions of your liver. What are you doing right now in your liver? How do you do that? It's pretty clever. We think we're the intellect running the show. I have the gears and I'm going to move the gears. But you realize how many millions of blood cells are created every second? How many billions of mitochondria are created every minute? We have no idea what's going on in there. So we're not the ones who are directing the show. It's the body and spiritual intelligence that's doing the work. And we like to think it's the ego and I know how I'm doing this. No, we raise the energy high enough and the body entrains and does its own self-healing. And the healing is 1,000,000,000 times more complex than our intellect.
I love that. I love that. Thank you to Francis for your question. Our next question is from Hilda in the chat. Hilda asks, I don't quite understand how to work with the infinity vortex. Is it just enough to imagine it?
You don't have to work with the infinity vortex, and I decided it wasn't necessary for the book, so I took it out because it was confusing to people. And what's going to happen is if people take the live workshop, they're going to learn about it. But you can get these two spirals of energy, one going clockwise, one going counterclockwise, an upside down tornado and a right side up tornado, and they meet in the middle. That's the infinity vortex. One's going clockwise, the other's going counterclockwise, and you spin them simultaneously in opposite directions. You don't need to know that, because if you get the energy high enough with the techniques that are in the book, it's going to be more than enough. The thing is to use them. It's not about the technique as much as it is getting the energy to the highest level you can get it and keeping it there long enough to get the process working. And there's more than enough information in this book to get you succeeding at the work. But if you want reinforcements and to amplify it, take the live workshop.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Hilda. Our next question comes from Soily. Hi, Soily. Nice to see you again. If one is allergic to antibiotics, can it be reversed? Thank you.
I've worked with allergies, not specifically antibiotics, but certainly had clients who have found relief when using the techniques in terms of changing their sensitivity. So it is something to play with, cautiously. we know that it works, but be smart about it, and see what happens for you. It's really incredible to see the shifts and changes. And as Richard says, we don't know how all these things work, but when we offer the energy, the body knows what to do and can shift things.
I would agree with that completely. You make progress, and sometimes it's a miracle. There was one group of people who were practicing quantum touch after one of the workshops. They all lived in the community, so they'd visit each other, and every week they'd get together for a session. And they started noticing they'd invite a new friend every week to come join them. And they started seeing miracles so regularly, they said, well, we can't call them miracles anymore. We'll have to come up with a new word. So they started calling them normicals. When the miracles become normal, we normalize them.
I think Enzo wants to be part of the Q&A
He
as
keeps
usual.
he keeps coming by. It's kind of unusual. He just keeps visiting.
That's very true, Richard. I think we kind of get used to extraordinary things happening. So normicals is a great term for what we experience in quantum touch. Thank you for your question, Soily. Now we have a question from Sonia, who asks, if I have different components of my arm to heal, there are at least 6 different issues. Do I send energy to the entire arm as a whole, or do I send energy separately to different parts of the arm, hand, fingers, wrist, etc., separately? Miriam, do you want to start with that one?
All of the above would be my answer. We start first with where does it hurt the most, and then, as Richard says, just chase the pain. Follow what you're noticing as you're breathing and sweeping and sending energy there and offering it, and your body will talk. And as long as you listen and offer the energy then in a different way or with a different resonance, I think you'll see results.
Absolutely. There's not more to be said. You see, I think one of the things that was the hardest for me when I was teaching workshops was to get people to understand how easy it was, and to get people to stop trying to overcomplicate it. And, well, do I work here, 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 here? Yeah. The answer is yeah, do that. And don't worry about it, because the energy has the intelligence to go where it's needed and do what's needed.
Thank you. Now we have a question from V, a very interesting question, who asks, have you ever worked on someone whose energy template is different? For example, they have 3 larger energy centers rather than 7 chakras.
I couldn't speak to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they're seeing that or what they're observing there.
Okay, thank you.
I just give energy to where
go
the
ahead.
problem is and it works. I don't know about 3 energy centers.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to the next question. Hilda asks if you work with the infinity vortex, and I think she's referring to also the becoming ageless techniques. How long does it take to see your hair color return from gray to the original color?
Well, in my case, it hasn't happened yet. And I'm working. So I started really working in earnest on myself to do this process 2 years ago. And that has not happened for me. Now, some people have had it happen in the workshop where the hair colors started changing right in the workshop. So it's going to be different for everybody. But I can say this, I'm getting stronger. The lines on my face are disappearing. I had major wrinkles on my arm from sun of 60 years of golf without sunscreen, and they're virtually all gone now. If I bend them, I can barely see them now. They were like massively before. I beat my record a couple days ago and did 36 dips in a row. And my record 2 or 3 months ago was like 27. And I'm getting stronger week after week. I'm not on peptides. I'm not on steroids. I'm 77 now, but I'm stronger than I was in my 20s and 30s. Is it all reversed? No, I have a lot of entropy to overcome. I'm not there yet. But here's the thing, we're not going to become 30 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old again. But what we are going to do is we're going to access what I call a new youth. In other words, the cells have a perfection that they are seeking. And I don't know what that end point is going to be where they have topped out and said, okay, I am in my optimum state now. Maybe I'll look like I'm 40. Maybe I'll look like I'm 35. I don't know how it's going to be. What I do know is that I'm making tremendous progress. I guess I'm probably getting about 3 or 4 years younger each year now, is my guess, based on the progress that I'm making. It's just a guess. But the point is that it's a process. And the entropy took how many decades to get there? How long does it take to reverse it? I don't know. It's going to be different for everybody. But think about this. If a train is going down the tracks at a high speed, how long does it take to slow the train down, stop the train, turn the train around, and get it to go back up the hill again? Now, what if you do this process for 2 years and all you've managed to do is stop aging and you see no progress whatsoever? You succeeded tremendously. That's a huge win that you stopped aging and it only took you 2 years. So people want to say, oh, look, I'm 19 again. This is great. No, it doesn't work that way. You actually have to stop and reverse the entropy. And the joke is longevity takes a long time.
Very true. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Hilda, for your question. Next, we have a question from Daphne who asks, do you think that healing someone from knock knees is possible?
Yeah, not only possible, but I'm going to show you a picture if I can grab it on my cat sitting on my iPad. This is ridiculous. Okay, while you go ahead and talk, and I'll find this picture in a sec.
So again, the body knows how to heal. The body knows how to shift and move and create ease instead of dis-ease. So when you offer the energy, the inner healer is going to utilize it for creating ease. Now, each inner healer has a different idea of where we want the ease to be. So energy is always working, but it may not be visible in the first couple of sessions or the first couple of minutes, especially if the situation or the issue has been housed in the body a long time. You have the picture now, Richard?
Yeah. My friend Terry was giving a lecture at a bookstore, and this little girl came in, Sally, and she had bow legs. And what Terry did, let's see if I got that in the center, pretty close. What Terry did was, with mom's permission, he lifted the little girl onto a chair and he touched her hips and her knees. And within a few minutes, the legs completely straightened out. Everybody in the room started crying, getting excited. Every single person at the lecture took his workshop. And the point is, we really don't know the limits of what's possible. Okay, it's your turn.
That's great. Yeah. And so it's very insistent today.
Yeah,
Great. Thank you. Go ahead, Richard.
yeah. So we don't know what's possible. And we've seen so many things that are just astounding that we can't see what the limits are. I remember I was giving a lecture one time and somebody asked, "Can you help bunions?" And I said, "I've tried, I've not succeeded." But this woman who was there had just taken the workshop over the weekend. I gave the lecture on Tuesday, and I said, "Let her try." And this woman in the room says, "I'm a medical examiner and I testify in court and blah, blah, blah. Let me measure the bunion first." So she has the woman stand on a piece of paper and she traces the bunion onto the paper. And then she draws all these lines and makes all these notes for about 5 minutes about what the bunion was. And then for about 10 minutes, this woman's working on the bunion while I'm giving the lecture. And then she comes out, stands on the paper again, and the woman says, "I would be willing to testify in court that this is at least 1/3 better, but it might be much more than that." Because she saw the actual difference. It was completely clear that these things are happening. But it's also to say, just because I've done this a long time doesn't mean that my energy is specifically good for calcifications. Some people dissolve calcifications. My energy doesn't seem to do that. I don't have a problem with that because it does enough good things and I don't have to do everything. And I'll let other people do the calcifications. So the bottom line is the body heals itself. If you get the energy high enough, then the body entrains, body intelligence does the healing. And so we can play this and you can ask what I call the 10,000 questions. There are 10,000 human conditions. And what about condition number 8,422? Oh, yes, the body heals itself. It's basically the same answer to all the questions, but we can try talking about it.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, Daphne, for your question. Next, we have Julie, who asks, "Hi, I have a 6-year-old that has pain in his solar plexus, his stomach, by his words. I did QT on him and he's still feeling the pain. I'm thinking his emotions are key to his pain. Any suggestions?"
Definitely. You might ask him what emotions he feels because of the pain. And you might ask what kind of pain it is and other questions. These are covered in Self-Created Health Workshop. And what you'll find out is that the condition tells you exactly what the emotions are, not because we're playing paint by number. It's not like, well, this means this and this means this. It's because the expression of the condition carries the information about what the emotions are. And what I found is if the energy doesn't do the work, the emotional work will.
The other thing I would say is, sometimes, especially when we have a child or someone we love very much who is in pain, we have our own thoughts about, "Oh, I've got to fix this. I've got to do this," instead of allowing their inner healer to do what it's going to do. And sometimes in that instance, the easiest thing or the best thing to do is to take a lighter approach, a more playful approach, and maybe ask him, what does it feel like? If you could, draw a cartoon of it, what would it feel like? What would it look like? And then he's starting to look at it differently. He's not looking at it as pain, but he's looking at it, well, what would it look like? And then from there, maybe the energy will go in a different way, and be more available for him.
Love that, Miriam. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, also. And thank you for your question, Julie. We have a few comments that came through. Sandra says she loves Richard's kitty. Jack says thank you for replying to his question. Francis also says thank you for your answer. I've always believed that love is the core foundation of the energy we radiate in the healing process. Beautiful. And Debbie says that when she took her first course years ago, our group noticed wrinkles on my face improved dramatically on our second day of the course. Amazing. Great comments. Our next question is from Nima in the chat, and Nima asks, can a person get taller at the age of 34?
Maybe. I haven't seen it, but it's possible. I just wanted to follow up on what she said about the wrinkles disappearing in class. Yes, that certainly has happened. But what occurred to me was I was teaching a retreat in Cancun. And so people had come from around the world to come to this quantum touch retreat. And there were people I hadn't seen in 10 to 20 years or even more. And as I'm looking around the room, I'm thinking, oh my God, these people have barely aged. So I had everybody identify their age and say, well, how old are you now? I'm 72 and I'm 53 and so forth. The whole room came to an instant recognition. This is slowing aging. So even if you don't read my book or, study the longevity practice, the practice of using quantum touch will slow the aging process. But then we figured if you can get the energy high enough and strong enough and long enough and powerfully enough, then we can start going further with it and we can start reversing it. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing absolute evidence that we can actually go backwards now. And this is, it's going to be ignored for a long time because it doesn't fit the medical model, but it's real and you can do it. And so practice and enjoy the process.
Thank you, Richard. Miriam, did you want to address Nima's question about getting taller?
I would love to, because I've experienced that. And I was just last week at our retreat in Portugal and was there with 28 students and many instructors. And a lot of incredible things happened there. But one of the things that greeting folks that I haven't seen in a while, they said, are you taller? And I said, well, yesterday I did have on some, slight heels, but today I'm wearing flat sandals. And they said, I just think you're taller. And I said, well, it does feel different. And I've noticed over the last several months, when I visited my sisters, that they seemed a lot shorter than I used to remember them being. And I felt much taller, but I just thought it was a perception. But it was fun to have that acknowledged when I was with folks I hadn't seen in a while there in Portugal. So yes, the answer is yes.
That is so
and beyond.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because I have also in the past couple of years since starting Quantum Touch, I have had the suspicion that I grew taller and I had nothing to substantiate it, but recently I was at the doctor and they said, "Oh, we'll take your height and weight." And I was 2 centimeters taller than I've been my whole life. And now I'm not sure why. I'll put this question out here just to elaborate on Nima's question. Why would the body do that? Would it would do that if it thought that it was in the highest interest of the body? What do you think, Miriam?
I think that can be the case. I think it can also be that when we're working with the energy in the spine, that our spine then has more space. Each of the vertebra has its own space and it creates more length in the body. That's just one of the things that I think about because we work a lot with the spine and running the energy up and down the body. So that's one of my thoughts. Don't know whether it's true or not, but if I think it must be true, right?
Won't hurt.
Very interesting. Thank you. And thank you for your question, Nima. The next question is from Sandra. She asks, is the information in the Lazarus material channeled? So Richard, that one's for you.
Yeah, Lazarus was channeled through a man named Jack Purcell, still coming through. They were 100% accurate emotionally for everybody. I had my first reading in 1980, and it took me 4 or 5 years to start to fully grasp everything that had been said to me in a half an hour reading. In my next reading 6 months later, they recalled the 4 primary points and the 4 aspects of each of those primary points, and were able to describe them in order. And said, well, as you recall, last time we spoke about your primary blockages, if you look at the 3rd aspect of the 2nd blockage and the 4th, it's the clearest information that I'd ever come across. And yeah, it is channeled information, and it's so beautiful and valuable that I just couldn't let it sit as notes. And nobody is coming out with it. You can go to their website, conceptsynergy.com, and they're not going to tell you anything. There's no free information, there's nothing, but this book is going to give you a real deep drink of the good stuff in the material. There's way too much to put into a book. Even the 400 pages didn't even begin to fully cover it, but it's a lot of the best stuff.
Thank you. Our next question, we're coming to our last few questions before the top of the hour, comes from Hilda. And Hilda says, I know someone with MS and another with Parkinson's. Can it be healed, and maybe with the method of self-created health? And how many sessions?
Everyone is different. I've certainly seen the progression slowed in both of those doctor word things. But I have seen folks who weren't also willing to accept that it could be fully reversed. And, you know, there's that aspect too. Some people will allow a little bit, but they don't allow a lot. And others are like, yes, give it all, and I'll take it all. And I'm going to reverse this all the way. So it really is the inner healer. It is, you know, a lot of factors involved, but I have seen progression.
Yeah, progress is certainly possible, but you have to understand there's a lot of emotional reasons a person brought such a heavy condition onto themselves. And if they're not dealing with the core emotional stuff, it's bypassing what they were trying to teach themselves through the experience.
Well said.
Yes, very well said. Thank you, Richard and Miriam. Thank you, Hilda. Julie says, thank you for your insights. All good to add to the work. Thank you, Julie. And Leanne asks, some clients feel all kinds of energy coming in and some clients feel nothing. The clients that don't feel anything, are they likely receiving quietly?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're receiving, they just aren't able to acknowledge it. I remember I was giving a lecture one time and a woman was complaining about a frozen shoulder. And she was very vocal after my 3-minute demonstration session that it didn't do any good for her at all. I saw her the next week at the workshop and I said, I thought it didn't help you. She said, well, not till I got home. So, you know, now I can do this. But the thing is that you cannot judge the work by the impression the person gives you, because the body may have to go through certain thresholds before they experience it, and everybody's experience is different.
Well said. Now we have a question. Oh, Daphne, a follow-up to the question on getting taller. She asks, were you concentrating on trying to get taller? So I'm not sure if that's addressed to me or Miriam, but I'll say that it was not even in my thought process at all. What about you, Miriam?
No, it wasn't in my thought process.
I just
I
noticed
mean, it
that
might
other
have been
people.
like,
Yeah, go ahead.
the only thing would be, oh, I wouldn't have to hem pants if I were taller.
That's great. And for me, it was just I started noticing that some people, you know, I'd known my whole life, family, and so on, just seemed to be shorter. And so then I realized, oh, maybe I'm the one who's changed. So not that they're all shrinking. So, but it certainly wasn't something that I was working on, and I'm perfectly happy with the height that I've been my whole life. So, great. We have a question again about Richard's books. Will the Lazarus material and energy reverses entropy be translated into Dutch? Richard.
When a publishing company approaches me and they want to publish it in another language, they translate it and they publish it and they send me a royalty. So you can contact your favorite Dutch publishers and say, hey, I want this book translated and I want to buy it in Dutch. So that's how it works. And so Quantum Touch is now in 17 languages. And many of my books are in multiple languages. So it's going to happen in time, but it's just going to require other publishers to take notice. But since I haven't promoted it yet, and I don't have a real publishing company behind me right now, because North Atlantic, that I've worked with for over 20 years, just wants to move in other directions. So they don't want my work right now. All right, I'll just find another publisher. If anybody knows a literary agent I should contact, that's on my to-do list.
Excellent. That's very exciting. And we have had a lot of questions on social media about your books being translated into other languages. So sending energy for a new publisher to come along, Richard, that would be fantastic.
Well, all they have to do is write to the publishing companies in their own country and say, take a look at this book. I'd love to have this translated. If you want to publish it, you know.
That's a great idea. So this is the first time that we've covered all the questions in the chat in our hour, but I will
Perfect.
sneak in one more that we got in via email. People often email their questions if they can't make it live, which is from Stevie. And Stevie asks, how can we use quantum touch to have more deeper and meaningful relationships?
It's another way of expressing love. And so there's two kinds of expressions of love. Both have four-letter words ending with K. And talk, but we also have energy. And so you can use the energy as another means of touch.
That's a great answer. I will also share that in my own experience, I used quantum touch to kind of maintain myself in a state of love so that I could find the type of relationship that I wanted to find. And it was an extraordinary, transformative experience for myself. And I'm thrilled to say that that happened, that relationship kind of all of a sudden out of the blue one day tapped me on the shoulder, and here I am. So I have quantum touch to credit for falling in love, and I did that by maintaining my vibration in a state of love. So you can absolutely use it in your existing relationships or to find new relationships as well, whether it be romantic or otherwise friendships, to repair relationships with your family as well. Miriam, did you want to weigh in on that question?
Absolutely. All of that is true. All of that is true. Yes.
Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everybody coming along. Yes.
Thank you, Richard and Miriam. And Richard, do you want to share one last time where people can find your books?
You just go to Amazon.com and there they are.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Miriam, for your presence today, for your wisdom, and for sharing your experience and making yourself available to answer questions. Thank you to Richard. Thank you to everyone for tuning in from around the world. Our next edition of Ask Quantum Touch will be on November 20th with Richard again and Rick and Paula Degovia, who are phenomenal practitioners, instructors, who will be available to answer your questions. For those of you who are interested in taking Quantum Touch workshops, learning more about Quantum Touch, you can go to the website www.quantumtouch.com. And I look forward to seeing you all again next month. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Miriam.
Okay.
Thank you
Bye,
to
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.